Good afternoon. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Personnel Subcommittee, the Gloucester Teachers Association Negotiation Team. Today is Monday, October 18th, 2021. It is 4:30 p.m. We are meeting in person at the Gloucester High School Library. We're going to call the meeting's being called to order. We are going to go into executive session from approximately 4:30 to 5 o'clock p.m. And then we'll be joined by the Gloucester Teachers Association at 5 to conduct collective bargaining. That being said, I'm going to make a motion that the school committee, personnel subcommittee, Gloucester Teachers Negotiating Team go into executive session pursuant to executive session purpose 3 of Mass General Laws, Chapter 39, Section 23B, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Gloucester Teachers Association, as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the Gloucester School Committee's bargaining position.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Kathy? Me, yes. I'm just going to read this statement as well. I should have read it at the beginning of the meeting. This meeting is recorded by video and audio in accordance with open state meeting law pursuant to section 20 of chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. Additionally, all votes taken by the GTA negotiating team during this and future remote meetings will be by roll call vote. I'm not going to read instructions on calling in because we will not be accepting any public comment today as we are negotiating. I just want to report that for school committee members here, it is myself, Melissa Prince, Chairman Jonathan Pope, and Kathy Clancy, in addition to Greg Pagnini and Naomi Stomberg, Gary Frisch, and Superintendent Lemus. So thank you. We will convene in public session at approximately 5 o'clock. Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I think we off this off, that on. That way we know. I'm not on a meeting. You are. There's no.
Hi, we can hear you a little bit.
Just a little bit. Can you hear us now?
Oh, that's so much better.
Okay, good. We have someone standing by to help us with technical difficulties. That's what took us a few minutes to get on. So sorry about that.
No worries. Thanks for the explanation.
Maria's ill and we had to bring in a ringer.
Yeah, our recording secretary is out today, Maria, so she's gonna do the minutes from this recording.
All right. Well, best wishes to Maria. I hope she has a speedy recovery.
Yes, we all hope that.
I can't see who your ringer is, though.
Brendan.
Brendan.
Oh, hi, pal.
Hey, how you doing?
You know.
So we are expecting a counter from you this evening?
So we have prepared quite a few things actually for you folks. And so if my friend Anthony could have permission to please share his screen, we can begin. And I believe we're going to begin. Naomi, you had reviewed the proposals and sort of pointed out where you folks were looking for information. And so we are going to come back to you with that information first, because there's some discussion we need to have. We have some questions. You also may have some questions. And then we have counters also. So we'll see how the night goes, but we'll start with that. So as soon as Anthony has sharing permissions, we can begin, and then we'll share these documents with you as well.
Okay, is that large enough for people to see?
No, sorry.
A little bigger,
Nope, that's
please.
okay.
That's great.
Better? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so with the district proposal number 4, we actually would like a little bit more time to talk to some of our members about this proposal and have a counter on that one for you next time. Number 5, we wanted to have a conversation. Rachel, do you want to take the lead and start with the questions we have about the safety care?
Yes, actually, I'd love to do that. So we were looking for some more data, first of all, for this piece, and then I think some other of my colleagues also have some questions as well. When we're talking about the safety care training, we understand that the safety care program is sort of in 2 parts. And the first part is a de-escalation program. And then the second part is a program where those physical holds, restraints, and escorts may come into play. So when we're talking about the physical part of that, we're wondering, do you have a list of the number of staff members that would be affected by this change here? So which teachers in which schools and classrooms would be affected by this change in safety care, especially that physical requirement piece? You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
we don't know. We'll have to get that to you.
We'll get that to you, Rachel.
Okay. So that was part.
So Rachel, sorry. Do you mean the number of folks who aren't trained now, or the number of folks total who'd be affected, number of positions that are affected?
So yes, how about both of that information would be very helpful if you could separate it. That would be very helpful for us. If
Got
you
it.
don't mind.
Thank you.
Teaching hours and teaching load, we respectfully reject this proposal. Changing that first sentence, would eliminate the certainty that our members have in knowing when the first day of school is going to begin based on the Labor Day schedule, when Labor Day happens to fall on the calendar. And so, our understanding is the work year already is 183 days. So we wouldn't necessarily need to even change that. And the additional professional development time, our members right now don't have an interest in giving up any of the time, autonomous time they already have, which is already very difficult for setting up a classroom and meeting with colleagues and preparing for the school year at the start. So we continue to respectfully reject district number 6.
Anthony, you referred to Labor Day. How is that impacted by our proposal?
In the current contract, the first sentence, which would be replaced by this language, is the sentence that defines when the first day of school is, and it's based on whether or not Labor Day is the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, or the 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th.
We weren't intending to change that.
That wasn't our intention, so there's some miscommunication there. It might be on our part, but know that wasn't our intention to change that. That's
Okay, I'm just
I
going by,
understand. Yeah,
Okay.
so if you have a clarification, we can reconsider if you want to modify your proposal. We can take a look at that.
we'll get back to you on that after we caucus, or
Thank you.
at some time later time, not the 2nd.
Got it, yeah. District number 7, again, we respectfully reject this district proposal. We do not believe that union members should be evaluating or supervising their union siblings. And so, again, we will continue to respectfully reject the proposal to take any of our members out of Unit A and give them supervisory duties. Our members aren't interested in supervising each other at this time.
Anthony, can I ask you, do you work in other districts where they have Unit A or Unit B?
I have some experience with some districts where Unit B is a member of a teachers union. Generally, it just causes more headaches for the union. You have a lot more intra-union disagreements, especially where it comes to evaluations and supervisory roles. And it's sort of a can of worms that we're not inclined to open. We know it's out there in some places, and I do represent a few of those units, or at least one of those units in another local, but it's not very common, and it's not something that we like to encourage, or we'd like to see happen, again, because the relationship between union siblings should be one of collaboration and solidarity. And when you impose a power dynamic like supervisor and supervisee, that's just not something that as a union we're looking to introduce into our membership.
And if I may,
Used to evaluate. They used to observe before every form.
before every form and before the entire dynamic of the evaluation process changed completely. Additionally, the supervising program leaders are one-year positions. And so if there's movement and changing in those positions, to be going in and out of units would also be too confusing. And I think part of the issue, especially when we piloted the new teacher evaluation, or the evaluation system we had now, that was a concern that we've had back then and all the way through. And it was changed then that the program leaders no longer evaluated because of the nature of those changes. And again, pitting union brothers and sisters against each other, or changing that dynamic is tricky. And so we still maintain our rejection here with this proposal.
I have some more discussion with you because in previous sessions you talked about how the program leaders assist teachers, and
This is what you wrote. So you rejected this already on June 14th. And you said at that point, union members should not supervise other union members. and program leaders are especially useful because their support and suggestions to other members is not evaluatory. So I guess it'd be helpful to know more about how those support and suggestions are done and on what basis and what regularity, for what purpose. So that'd be helpful information from, I know Rich, you're a program leader, but we're gonna get you some information, and it'd be helpful for you guys to share with us, not today, maybe next time, how that actually happens across the different departments. What role program leaders, play in providing support and suggestions, and how that's done.
Middle school as well.
It's just middle school too, that'd be helpful to really understand and discuss here, how that role is playing out. Because these are very significant, roles and stipends that are being paid, and they say supervisory, so that's, I think, what's got us a little confused.
Right, so we're either gonna need to change the job description or move forward in this direction, because it does say supervisory.
It does, and it has, and it hasn't changed since the new teacher evaluation system came in. And how many years ago was that when we piloted that? That was probably pushing, what, 10, 12 years ago, I think. And I mean, we welcome that collaboration between teachers, but we refuse to let those interactions become evaluatory.
Right, there needs to be a level of trust between colleagues, and in order for a program leader or a mentor or anybody in that kind of a role to be effective, there needs to be a trust that, advice and conversations in some instances, especially between union siblings, have some degree of confidentiality, except where somebody's imminent safety, is in imminent danger, or under situations where educators are required to be mandated reporters. Conversations between program leaders and members, and between mentors and mentees, should have a basic understanding of confidentiality, so that the trust can be the basis of improving or making adjustments to practice. And we don't think that those things aren't happening. And as educators, that's part of what we do every day with our colleagues, is in both required and unrequired settings. Whenever educators come together, they are talking shop and trading tips, and we don't see how having another supervisor with evaluation authority would improve that. If anything, it would just lead, it would actually, likely muddy the waters, because it'd be another person, another country heard from, in terms of how the educator is developing. And new educators, especially, they have their support teams, they have their mentor, they have their program leaders, and an evaluator sees the sum total of all that work during observations and in writing evaluations.
So I'm just asking for more information. I'm not asking about becoming evaluatory here. I'm asking, just like you guys asked for some more information about the number of positions, the number of those folks safety care trained. I'm asking for more information about how the support and suggestions from program leaders specifically are provided, and on what basis, what regularity, that sort of thing. Because Anthony, you're so right that peers talk and discuss and trade tips all the time, but this is a specific role that's different than just peer-to-peer, because it's a paid stipend leadership position. So if you guys can get us some more information to educate the committee members here, because I'm sure they don't quite understand how the supervisory program leader role is carried out, and to what extent, and what regularity, and what formality. So that'd be helpful to get from you.
Okay.
We can provide that to you.
I have a question. Let's say that James has a concern about a particular teacher. Can James say?
Let's not say principal, because it's not.
Okay, the principal has a concern about a particular teacher. Can the principal say, will you go in and observe this person and offer the person some tips, but the program leader does not have to go back to James and say, oh, this person, to the principal, oh, this person stinks or this person's terrible, but just in there trying to coach and help them improve. Is that a role that you foresee the program leader would have?
If I know I'm gonna interrupt because Rich might be better to answer this question, but I've also had experience as a program leader in the past. I mean, more of the information I think that you and Ben are looking for, and Naomi, this isn't going to exactly answer your question, so I just want to be clear, but departments meet once every 7 days in our 7-day cycle at Gloucester High School. And in some of those exchanges and in some of those meetings, aside from the program leader bringing information from the principal and the assistant principals into the departments, there's also often time for asking questions or discussion. And so there's also time for newer teachers to ask questions either of other veteran staff or their program leader, him or herself. In the past, when I was in that role, I have had teachers ask, I'm having a difficult time in this class with management. Could you come in and look? And because I did have that reduced teaching schedule, I could go into that teacher's class and I could watch the dynamics. And then I could help that teacher with some classroom management skills that I had developed over the years, just as being a more experienced teacher. So that I know doesn't answer your question, Naomi, but there are some models where program leaders will, when asked by the teacher, can go into those classrooms and observe and then offer some advice just based out of the sheer nature of experience and having more time. And I think that maybe that's more of a role that would happen more frequently in the school. So again, it was teacher generated, not generated by administration. And I'm not sure if Rich maybe wants to speak more on this topic where he currently holds a program leader position.
So where Rachel talked about, being able to go in and help, that's part of it. But a big part of the program leaders is organizing the department, figuring out the scheduling for everybody, making sure that the curriculum is what it is. I mean, we just spent the last couple of years, and some of you just spoke with the NEASC people, and a lot of what we did in the last couple of years had to do with what NEASC was asking us to do. And I know, for example, my department, we've revamped our entire curriculum for each of the core classes. And a lot of what I did was checking on what we were doing, working on PLC, stepping into PLCs and seeing how the PLCs were going. And as Rachel said, when needed, especially if we have a new teacher, we would offer to be able to observe and to give advice and to give feedback that they're going to take as, I'm helping you out as a teacher, not, this might determine whether you get to keep your job or not. And as Anthony had pointed out, that trust has a lot to do with the relationships within the departments. And while each new teacher has a mentor, not every new teacher gets a mentor either. New teachers coming here who've been through a mentoring program somewhere else, they don't get a mentor. And so the program leader oftentimes serves as that mentor. And so I think that's where a lot of that supervising part in that description comes in. And so we are the person helping them. As I said, we are helping them develop as teachers, and we're able to keep that relationship as it is, as an honest building of trust with a person. And so, we're sort of that intermediary between admin and the teachers. And by keeping it like that and not making us evaluators, I think we're able to build a better rapport within the entire department.
I think there's some back and forth still to be had on this amongst our group. So thank you for that explanation, and we'll consider it in our caucus and going forward.
Right, and there's some more information we can also provide for you in our caucus as well.
Thank you.
So as we move on, folks, good.
So number 8, again, the union will continue to respectfully reject, where our members are not, struggling for things to do. So adding additional duties, particularly library coverage, where that is already, that is in fact covered by a GATE position. It is not something that, we're looking to, we're willing to agree to at this point. The current duty regime seems adequate. And so we continue to respectfully reject this proposal.
Does it work if that person is out sick for a couple days? What do the students do if the gate person is not there? I think, the intent of the proposal is for flexibility to make sure students have a teacher in places where they need it. So these are not permanent assignments. This just would allow administration to have some flexibility if there is a need to be there for students who are in these particular situations.
Particularly to have the both library open and bridge open when those paraprofessionals, those ESPs, have their breaks or have their breaks.
So that doesn't make sense, because if the bridge teacher is absent, they would have a substitute teacher there for the bridge teacher. If the paraprofessional is absent, the bridge teacher is still there for the remainder of the day. And so that GAPE position that you have offers that coverage time. And my understanding was for that block of coverage, it was to provide, especially for the bridge teacher, to ensure that the bridge teacher not only had her PLC time, but also her preparation block and a 30-minute uninterrupted lunch. And that's provided for by the paraprofessional. So
so if the para happens to be absent, paras are pulled from their regular assignments for substitute duties all the time. And since GAPE already has the responsibility of the library coverage, a para being moved from one assignment to the other, that's currently the practice for substituting for teachers in many cases. So I don't see how this would be any different.
Okay.
I just want to finish by saying, this is driven by what's in the best interest of students, to have that ability to be flexible and not as a regular thing, but as a plan B if staffing was a challenge.
And when staffing is a challenge, though, Kathy, I had my duty moved to the library, and I'm not trained to do anything in the library, and so it kept it open. Students could come in, but they couldn't check out a book. I couldn't help with any of the technology materials that they had in there. Like the library was open, but there wasn't an awful lot that could be done. So we totally understand the best interest of the students, and we certainly support the programs here, but that coverage is being provided for in a new GAPE position that had been generated over the summertime. And so these needs are already being met.
So, folks, I just want to clarify on time here, just in the sense that what you're going over, you've already went over all of it on June 14th, and you're not changing any of your positions, or you're not giving us any new information or counter proposals. So
We're not finished yet.
We're getting to some. You've had questions, and these were in the document that's still on the table. So we figured we'd at least, touch upon them to explain why we continue to reject them as you continue to keep them on the table. But we do have some counters and, again, modified proposals, as we said at the outset.
all right, great, thank you.
So I believe we're on number 9.
Speaking of, we do have a counter. And so we would just add, strike 24 hours. And we would ask that it be emails be responded to or communication within 2 school days whenever possible. We think that's pretty reasonable. It's pretty standard expectation among education that, weekends, holidays, vacations, we're not working, we're not required, although many educators do respond to emails over those times. But 2 school days to come back from a vacation, catch up to your emails seems reasonable in the most extreme version of some time off. And during the regular work week, I'm sure most respond within that amount of time anyway.
Anthony, could you give us some examples where it wouldn't be possible?
Where it wouldn't be possible to respond within 24 hours?
No, within,
For
two school
the two
days.
school days.
you said whenever possible.
I mean, let's say, I get an email on a Friday and, Monday, Tuesday go by and Tuesday night I come down with the flu and I'm out sick on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm on sick time. I wasn't able to respond in those 2 school days, or let's say it happens on Tuesday and I wasn't able to respond on Monday during that first school day. Second school day, I'm out. As long as I'm out while I'm sick. It might not be possible to respond within the students' 2 school days, but I return to work, I start catching up to my emails and I'll get to it when I can.
If I may add from personal experience, I was out the end of March last year for about a week due to the passing of my mom. And while I'm chronically on my cell phone when I'm not at school, and I get my emails, that was just not the time or the place for me to respond to those emails.
Can I add to, I just have to advocate for our specialist teachers because they have large number of students and it would make it much more doable for them if we had the lengthier amount of time.
Right, and I think, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Rachel.
Well, in Wednesday school committee meeting, we also saw an instance where a parent had emailed an administrator and the administrator hadn't had a chance to get back. So we know that administration also struggles with this as well. Right, in Wednesday school committee meeting, when the parent was talking about that mask mandate and Ben had suggested she emailed him and she already had, and he hadn't had a chance to get back to her. So we're getting inundated with emails and we're doing the very best that we can. I even in Meet the Teacher Night tell my parents, if I haven't responded to you in 2 or 3 days, call your student's guidance counselor or call the school and tell somebody to, tell Mrs. Rex to go check her emails, right? Because sometimes they can get lost. So it's tricky. And some administrators too, like in general, I think have a difficult time getting back to their staff members. And we wonder, we wonder, should there be limitations on, or should there be requirements and responding requirements on them as well?
So
May
my
I also-
response to that, I just want to add, this complaint is one of the biggest complaints we get from parents, that their emails aren't responded to, and that's one of the major reasons for this being a proposal. I mean, the school committee doesn't get many complaints on our awesome staff, but if there is one, this is it. Parents, I know 48 hours doesn't sound a lot in your world and probably in my world because we are so busy, but to a parent that wants an answer, 48 hours is a long time to them. With regard to, I'm going to defend the superintendent a little bit here because he has to answer to the whole world, not just the school district. He gets emails from everywhere, not just school, but city, and lots of demands on him. And I'm very grateful that he's kept up with what he has during COVID. So I don't want to make that comparison. And the school committee does manage the superintendent. So that's not something we need to discuss as far as putting in any protocols for that. But this proposal is mainly to address the parents' concerns that we get, and this is probably one of the biggest complaints that we get is the amount of time for the communication when when a parent has a question to a teacher. So this is important to us.
I totally
May I also
understand that.
add
Oh,
from
go
an
ahead, sorry, Cynthia.
elementary, may I also add from an elementary teacher's point of view? And I know that middle school and high school have sometimes over 100 students and limited time to that they're not teaching to be able to respond to emails. Contractually, elementary school teachers have 30 minutes a day to prep, and that's it. So in order to, to ask to respond to emails, and platooning teachers have sometimes 40 or more parents, it's just not physically possible. And a lot of times after school, we have meetings. So even if we are doing it on our own time, we are busy, and we just don't have the time. We're not sitting in front of a computer. We are teaching, we are moving, we are doing things all day long, and it's not computer based. So it's sometimes just not physically possible.
I understand, Cynthia. I know we're all busy, but at the same time, we have to provide a response to our parents in the situation. So that's what
I
we're working
think the
towards.
question I have for you is, when are we supposed to do that? When?
I don't know. We're working on minimum teaching hours in this community, so That's tough. We always strive to get more time in our contracts.
It shouldn't be done, have to be done within the 30 minutes. There's an expectation that there will be some work that has to be done after school. And you all know that, you all do it.
Yeah, we fully understand what traditional duties are, but even among that, the expectation that every email is going to be answered the next day is simply unreasonable in any industry. And you don't want to make the comparison to the superintendent, but then you did. And said how many emails he gets. And, you know, we're all very, very busy, and it doesn't show a whole lot of respect for educators' time to, you know, expect that this kind of a turnaround of 24 hours is reasonable. I don't know many parents who expect that, you know, just, you know, for a grade update or how's my kid doing email. I think 2 days, you know, as a parent myself of a 19 and 12-year-old who've been through public schools, as an educator of 16 years, as all the people on this team are telling you, we're fully aware that we need to respond to parents within a reasonable amount of time. And we think 2 school days, whenever possible, you know, barring extenuating circumstances we've discussed, is perfectly reasonable. So we're not refusing to engage with parents. In fact, most people are probably going to respond as soon as they can, when they can, as educators do. But if the district wants to impose a, you know, or ask us to agree to a, you know, a timeline and insert something into this collective bargaining agreement that our members will be bound to, then it has to be something reasonable and not so restrictive that it leads to unnecessary discipline or unnecessary grievances. I mean, if a parent sends an email and it's an urgent matter and the teacher doesn't respond right away, I would assume a reasonable parent doesn't sit back and wait two days or school days or a weekend. If it's an urgent matter that's got to be addressed right away, if that teacher doesn't respond, every one of those parents is going to go to the school principal and then email the superintendent, where at that point, you know, I would expect a faster turnaround if I've heard from a parent who's coming up the chain of command. So we agree with the sentiment, and we're willing to negotiate over a language that gives administration something to point to, so that when they hear from a parent, oh, you emailed her yesterday, well, give her another day. Is it urgent? I can help you now. If it's not urgent, you know, let her respond in a day or two, and we'll see what happens and go from there. I just don't see that unreasonable.
Just a quick question. If you look at the language that we proposed, it says we'll make every effort to respond to parent inquiries within 24 hours. Do you really need the whenever possible where it says we'll make every effort? Doesn't that address your issue? But doesn't that address your issue? You make every effort if if you're sick, then that's a reason.
I feel like, Naomi, that you leave it too open. We'll make every effort too. Otherwise, it's too open. We'll make every effort to respond. What do we say, in 2 school days? I think that's more than enough, Naomi. I mean, some of us have 120 students.
So my question was, why do you need whenever possible where the language says make every effort?
We like whenever possible, just to cover extenuating circumstances, like Anthony's example of getting the flu, or Matt's example of not being in a good frame of mind because he had lost his mother and was out for 5 days. So it'll cover extenuating circumstances.
And to that very example, the question is, you know, while I'm out sick, does that mean I couldn't make an effort? You know, if I have the flu and I got a little runny nose, I can't be in school, but could I make an effort to write an email or respond to an email? Some might argue that I could. And that's why the whenever possible, you know, is a little bit of extra protection that, again, if we had, I mean, we could caucus over this about which we prefer, but, you know, I think both is the strongest. And again, that idea that you could make an effort even when you're not working because you're out sick or on leave. Some people may say that and say, well, their email could go to their phone, they can check it from home. And whenever possible, you know, sort of implies that on those days when you're not working, you're on leave for whatever reason, that expectation would be also on pause.
And may I ask a question? I wonder, because Melissa said that this is one of the bigger parent complaints, like, is there a way to maybe collect some data and show us, like, are these parent complaints coming from high school, middle school, elementary school? Like, is there an area of concern where we can work? Is there a way that we can share data without sharing specific information? Like, I'm not looking for parent name or kid's name, that sort of thing, but is there a way that we can look at this and see, does it happen at a particular time of the year? Is it happening at a particular level? And maybe there's some ways that we can collaborate better on this.
I don't think there's a way to quote unquote gather data because each school committee member is hearing from different parents. They're obviously mentioning it to us when they're frustrated or their child is really in need of better, different support, or they're trying to figure out how to support their child better. I know I've heard it many times and I didn't really see any consistent pattern to be able to provide you with information. It just seems that there are situations probably at all levels and all subjects, and it's just one of those things that parents really want to partner in their education, and we want to really be able to respond to them to make them feel they've been heard and empowered to also help with the situation.
Understood. All right, well, perhaps you could consider the counter when you caucus and we'll come back.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rachel.
12.
Number 12, I know last time you'd said you'd like to have a conversation. Again, we, feel like, we could talk about this forever. But right now, the GTA just doesn't have any interest in further restricting members' sick time. And, we respectfully reject this proposal to provide that kind of notice for every appointment. Our educators are professionals. They should be, respected and, trusted that when they have to schedule an appointment, whether it's on short notice or with advance notice, that there should be nothing restricting them from being able to take the day. And, the disclaimer aside that emergencies or illness would not be applied, they're already, it doesn't really do much for us to agree to this just because emergencies or illness would remain a possibility. We, of course, are happy to communicate with our members that the best thing whenever you can do is to provide as much notice as possible. I think that's, again, a mutual sign of mutual respect between management and labor. So we're happy to share that, desire of the district with our members and encourage people to provide as much notice as they reasonably can. But we're not in a position to agree to this language at this time.
Anthony, what about language that says that, I'm just brainstorming here, okay? That teachers will provide as much notice as possible, or teachers be encouraged to provide advance notice? Something
If you'd like to submit a modified proposal, that's something we can consider.
Thank you.
We know that we understand emergencies and you don't really plan sick time, but there is such thing as planned sick time, and that's what we're trying to address, those times.
Well, again, if you have a modified proposal for us to consider after caucus or another session, we'd be happy to take a look at it.
Thank you.
Number 14, we have a modified version of our proposal on the same subject, so we'll just leave it at that. We're rejecting this proposal, and we will go over our modified personal day proposal in the next document.
And by the way, that proposal, I think, was presented to you on June 3rd with our compensation and benefits. So you should have already seen that.
Wait, I'm sorry, that confused me. Wait, do you have a modified proposal, or are you saying?
We'll share that with you shortly after we go through the rest of.
Modify their June proposal.
Oh, okay, I got it, thank you. Got it.
Yep. So we just here with number 15, the evaluation, the PTS teachers on a 2-year self-directed educator plan is determined progressing as expected. We had some questions really in terms of logistics, like specifically what new language would be placed where into the evaluation document. And how would that change what is currently happening for a PTS teacher on the first year of their self-directed growth plan?
Get back to them,
Yeah,
Dan, or-
yeah.
We'll get back to you on that.
But, okay, yeah.
Thank you. Number 16, we are actually prepared to accept your proposed change to replace student motivation 6 through 12 with student engagement 6 through 12 as a priority element.
Was that a tentative agreement?
So we accept, we'll consider that a TA.
Thank you.
Which one? I'm sorry, can you repeat
Number
that?
16.
But
District number 16, the evaluation I forgot the term we used, priority elements.
So all the updates,
Yeah, the only updates you proposed was removing B3 and adding in A2, correct?
whatever was in red is updated.
Yep, that's the only thing I see in red in here.
Wait, can you go back to that? Because I thought I saw more red.
There is red here, May updates 2021 in red.
Yep.
And the only other red on this page is here under standard 2.
Right, okay,
Mhm.
gotcha, thank you. Mine's black and white, so I'm struggling a little bit.
Again, with 17, again, we don't have any interest in changing the responsibilities of the high school teachers during homeroom time. They already have plenty of work to do. They're already working with students. Additional language, is not something we're willing to accept at this time. Same with number 18, the changes at the O'Malley Middle School. Again, this would allow for too much, potential conflict. Right now, the way things work, it's equitable. It works for the teachers. There's no interest in changing that at this time.
Well, we don't think it works for the kids. That's the issue.
Well, it can work for the kids if you have, if you invest in the staff and the supports needed. Again, we don't think that we have to change the expectations, so that there's wildly varying schedules for different teachers on different days and add that kind of confusion when the solution might be to just hire an additional support staff or an additional teacher so that the schedule works.
Where did you get wildly different teaching schedules? Where did that come from?
It came from the fact that if we don't have the set number that's every single day, that there could be a day where you're teaching more minutes one day and fewer minutes a different day. And, at the administration's discretion,
So you're
there
saying
could be
minutes?
differences there that would be not what is anticipated, but it could be an unintended consequence.
Yeah, go ahead.
I assume Rachel can probably relate. I would think sometimes you're getting into activities with students that you could benefit from a slightly different or longer schedule, right? Doesn't the high school have longer blocks sometimes? I think that's what's envisioned in this, that there may be times where what is being taught and the activity that's related to it would benefit from a shift on on a predictable basis, on an agreed upon basis, so that you're meeting the needs of the kids and probably the teacher as well, who may want to have the longer time one time and a shorter time another time. I don't think it's going to be I don't think the intent is it to be so very day to day or even week to week, but just to give some flexibility yet again in how we
Administration
approach delivering instruction.
Administration can set a schedule that, as long as the 240 minutes per day is consistent, that can have longer blocks and shorter blocks. We're not objecting to that. That's clearly allowed by the contract.
So
We're
on a
just
day
saying
when-
that,
On a day when there's an assembly and the teacher's not teaching, then what?
Well, they're supervised, if they're with their students in the assembly, they're working, they're just teacher contact time. They may not be delivering direct instruction on their assigned curriculum at that time because the manager has asserted its authority to send the students to an assembly, but we're teaching during that time. We're teaching students social behaviors. We're teaching students how to behave in an assembly, how to be a respectful audience. So we would disagree that that's not teaching time if we're with our students during a scheduled block that gets reassigned by administration.
No, middle
And if-
schools, the school systems have consistent instruction each day.
If I could
Correct.
respond
Go ahead, Rachel.
to Kathy when she mentioned the longer blocks, and I love my long blocks because that gives us an opportunity to really discover and get into higher order thinking skills. However, those long blocks are scheduled for, and so everybody knows when those long blocks are going to happen. They're prepared for, they're scheduled for, and in this particular proposal, it doesn't really give any structure and to allow for flexible scheduling. So if I'm up to my elbows in a great discovery activity in my science classroom, and I could use an extra 20, 30 minutes, that's great, but I can't do that at the expense of Rich's social studies class, right? Or somebody else's math class. And so I think that's the concern that we teachers have. We certainly are here for the betterment and for the students' best interest. But like the long blocks at the high school, there's a set schedule for that, and we can prepare and schedule for that. Here, this doesn't really give us any kind of scheduling. Allowing for flexible scheduling, I think, makes some of us teachers nervous, where maybe a great activity is going to happen, but what if something really important also needs to happen at ELA? So we're looking really for a firmer schedule where teachers won't be surprised, and where where their planning can still be executed and not interrupted. And I think that those are the reasons why we're rejecting this particular proposal. And the way that you worded that really makes it sound like we teachers aren't here for the students' best interest. And for me, if I could please finish,
Yeah,
for
but I didn't
me,
hear
that, may I please finish? And for me, that was very offensive. So I just be careful with the way that you're trying to express what you're trying to say, because I'm sure that you didn't mean that we teachers don't care about the students'
I
best.
absolutely did not mean anything of the sort.
So Rachel, is it fair to say you're concerned that this language appears not to provide for set schedules, so that schedules could be changed at whim and teachers wouldn't know what the expectations are? Because that's an issue that we can address. We understand that and we know it's important.
I think that's definitely a concern that people have, because current language says there's a maximum of 240 days per teacher, minutes per day.
40 days. Oh, you just increased the school year.
Yeah, no, that's sorry. That was a slip of the tongue.
Is that a proposal?
240 minutes per day for any teacher. And, again, if there's a modified proposal, the school committee would like to have us consider, that make sure that there's an average over the course of any week. There may be ways where there's something we can work with, but the way this is written, we can't accept. And, we don't see the need for a change. So, we're happy with the way things are. And so we don't have a counter, but if you do have a modified, or if you have any modifications you can make for us to consider that could address these concerns, we would certainly be open to it.
Thank you.
And if I may ask, as the teacher at the middle school, I guess we're also kind of trying to figure out, where did this request come from? Is it specific to certain classes? We're just not really seeing what the purpose of this is. I mean, the purpose is we want to be able to have a flexible schedule. I understand that. But if that's like the surface, what's kind of underneath the surface here? Is there any, because I've talked to other teachers about this and everyone's kind of in agreement, like it's working enough. Is this coming from parents? Is it coming from students? Is it just coming from your level? Is there any insight to that?
So Lynn and I were talking about this. I may not understand it fully, so I'll talk more about Lynn. I think it's more about the flexibility in programming. Whether it's across specials or whether it's across different, houses and folks having some more flexibility on, perhaps having, longer blocks on some days, shorter blocks on some other days. But I don't want to go too far trying to explain it because I'm not clear that I have a nuanced understanding of the intention here. So we'll get some more interest for you and come back with
Thanks,
a.
Benna. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And thank you for being open to that too as well.
Thank you. And then finally, with number 19, I think we need to hold for another discussion. I don't know if we want to have that discussion today. But as it is, our concern is, we know the district already has the right, the superintendent has the right to approve or reject those courses which our members submit for approval at the moment. I know our members are concerned that sometimes those approvals are withheld when they should be granted. And we do see the district's goal of sort of coming up with a list of acceptable courses and providers. I think we might be able to come up with a counter. We're just not ready for that one at this time. So we're going to hold on that one, on number 19 for now. And so I can now present our modified.
No, 20,
Say again?
online distance learning courses.
That's what we just talked about.
No, he was talking about graduate course criteria.
Sorry, I had accidentally combined them into one. I accidentally deleted the 20. So 19 and 20, both the same. I mean, because they're related. Right? Aren't they connected to one another?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry about that confusion.
Are you sending us a document now?
I can send that to you. Do you want me to go over our modified,
Yes.
the modified GTE proposals? I'll send you both over at once.
Yes.
And then when we caucus, we'll make sure that you get all the documents.
Thank you.
All right, so we have some modifications and we also have a proposal.
Andy, sorry, Andy, can you enlarge that? Yeah, thank you.
Yep, got it.
Great.
So for number one, we would modify I'm going to go through all of our modifications and holds. And then we do have a little bit of a package that we hope that we can present to you that might make some of these modifications moot or not. But just to let you know, if the package isn't amenable to you, and this won't include everything, but it'll include a lot of this language that we might be willing to withdraw some of these that are relative to that. So we would ask that for number one, we modify that the report goes to the school committee at the next public meeting. All other language from our original proposal would stay the same.
Do you know that BNF does this? They get reports on the slips and everything at their meetings. So teachers, they get a report correct, Jonathan, on the number of slips that have been addressed and
Yes.
the ones that haven't been. So this is happening now.
It's been happening for a couple of years.
Okay, and you'll see if especially as we go through the rest of these, that could be something we sort of put together, understanding that. So with number two, and we will just say that we did survey our members, and while it's sort of split, it's 60-40, most people on the 60% side do say the ticketing system is easy enough to use, with 40% saying not very easy. But then it sort of flips, 68% who say that repairs aren't being made fast enough in response to those, and 32% saying that things are fine. So while the system may be easy to report things, there's some debate over whether or not it's working effectively and quickly enough to remediate some of the issues that arise.
But just so you know, when we get the report, it tells us within how many days it's been resolved. Like we know those times. That's part of the discussion at BNF.
Okay.
Did you say that teachers are furnished with that report?
No,
No,
we
we
set
didn't.
up BNF, it's a public
Because
document.
Contractually, when we ask our principal, who's a building-based reporter of health and safety issues, contractually, we're supposed to get a notice within 10 days telling us what the plan is to fix or remediate the problem, and we're not getting that.
So the BNF meeting is posted.
It's the 10 days.
No, I think,
But it's only once a month.
you mean for individual tickets, Cynthia? You're
Yes,
talking about, yes, is that a yes?
yes.
Well, that's easy to do about what, if the person submitting a ticket should always, if say the staff member who has the issue, when the ticket's submitted, if they're put on the ticket as a, I can't remember the role, then they should get the updates as well. So that might be. that
Yes,
might be
and
about-
apparently that doesn't appear to be happening. If I can read the language, it says, teachers will report health and safety problems to their building designee within 10 school days of filing a report. The teacher will be provided with a timeline for any required remediation.
So they may be getting the updates as the tickets as they're being put into the system, but they're not getting the timeline in advance that says, we got your ticket. Here's
We're not getting
what we're going to do
updates.
about it.
We're not
Correct
even
me if
getting
I'm-
updates of when they're being put into the system.
So
We
correct
tell our
me if I'm
principal,
wrong, but
and
that
that's,
That language went into the contract before we switched to this type of system where you're interacting directly with the DPW. So before, am I correct, Cynthia? Didn't we negotiate this?
No.
once? Oh, we consolidated
this was,
DPW?
this was part of the grievance that we filed, that we got this language. So
Oh,
we're
it was-
supposed to be
no,
getting
it
an
was
update.
before.
It was before
This
that.
wasn't a grievance. This language has been in the contract for a while. And it was when we had control over the maintenance of the building.
I,
And now
I-
the system
I think-
goes directly to the DPW, so we don't know. We're at the mercy of relying on the DPW to get the information you need. So that's
Well,
what's changed.
nevertheless, that's what the contract says, so we have to address that. Teachers are not told where our issues are going. We're not told when they're going to be resolved. We're not given any updates. Once we tell our building principal, that's the last we hear, and then things aren't getting done. So I'm telling you, that's the way it's happening. So,
So can you
we have
provide a
to
list of?
abide by, we have to either abide by this contract or come up with a way that teachers are notified that things are going to get done. And as far as I can tell, this contract language still holds.
Wait, can I just say this? So
Go ahead.
Cynthia, first to go back to your comment that things aren't getting done, I'd like to get a list from you, from your group that says where they're not getting done, because this list is reviewed by BNF. And while I will agree there may be a couple things that have been outstanding for a long period of time, I think it's our position, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the response has been pretty well with our DPW, and we're very grateful for that. So I don't understand this complaint about things not getting done and it going unknown. And second of all, we are again at the mercy of the DPW, and there's a great line of communication open between the administration and the DPW, but we can't force them to give us a response within 10 days, according to this contract, where the process has changed. So it's kind of a frustration of purpose. So that is something we're probably gonna have to talk about if that's your expectation. Because there are oftentimes we are not gonna be able to comply with this. I mean, we don't talk every day with the DPW to find out what's newly been put into that system and when it's gonna be fixed. That's just not reasonable.
Cynthia, do teachers get feedback on their slips that they submit? Do the principals get back to them on that? No, okay, maybe
I think
that's
I
something,
think it depends how it's entered.
okay.
And I think it goes to the principal, correct?
You know,
Some things.
or the principal's designee about who submits it, but
We will-
if they
And
submit a
some-
certain way, they can get. an
We will
update.
look into
So
that.
we're gonna look into it and give you a response on how that works.
At some schools, there are no slips.
What?
It's
What?
not reported anywhere.
You mean, well, it's in the ticket, it's in a work order system, there's,
We just submit, we tell our building safety coordinator, which is the principal, it's been designated as the principal, and that's the last we hear.
So we'll fix that.
Yeah, so, well, yeah,
Is that at veterans?
be helpful to know which schools.
Which schools?
We can poll our members to get you that data.
Okay.
So
So I
yeah,
will-
it's a
I
different
will-
mechanism at the high school too. Like we inform Joan Dolan, our principal secretary, and then she puts in the ticket. And so sometimes you get information about it and sometimes you don't. So I think that might be the other issue too, is that it's not streamlined throughout the district.
Okay.
Correct.
I would like to hear though back of the statement that there's lots of things not getting done. I'm curious about that. We're all concerned
We'll
about
pull-
the health and safety of the buildings and our staff. So if a comment like that's gonna be made, I'd like to have that data so that we can approach the people we need to make sure that things are getting done. So if you could
As-
get
I
us
mean,
that
as-
list, that would be great.
As you said, I
Again,
mean,
we'll-
we can get you that list, but as you said, there are some things you admitted that are outstanding. And our data that we shared was not that nothing ever gets done. It was that repairs are made too slowly, that the system isn't as efficient in getting the work done as it could be, not that
But
nothing
I'm
ever
not
gets
saying
done.
that though, the things that, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm looking at Jonathan and Kathy, because they're on BNF, there's things like where parts aren't available anymore. Things that.
There's a lot of issues.
So that's part of that, I think
Wait,
that's
wait,
part of
hold
what
on.
would be.
I'm gonna have Jonathan update you on that so that we know exactly what the report says.
Well, there's a number of, the things that are slow are things where we're having trouble, of DPW is having trouble get parts for, particularly in plumbing is an issue. The city only has one plumber. And the plumbing issues have backed up, but I believe that we have discussed the possibility of hiring another plumber on a temporary basis to get caught up. But I don't know of any backups in other areas.
Sure, and I think what the members are asking for is, within that 10 days, being told it's a plumbing issue, we need to have we're waiting on supply, so there is an expected date of delivery, or there isn't because of a backlog. I think that kind of communication is exactly what they're looking for and what isn't always happening. There may be people wringing their hands going, gosh, I wish we could fix this, but we don't have, the whoosy what's that we need. But nobody's telling the teacher, we know it's a problem, your whoosy what's it's on back order, sorry, here's what we can do in the meantime. And I think that's the communication that we're hoping to facilitate with this. That said, this may be something that, a conversation that may need to be continued at something like a joint labor management committee, which is our number 2 and sort of part of our, our perspective package around some of these issues. So our modified proposal regarding the labor management committee, was to create a more formal and efficacious version of the current fireside chats and to enshrine them in perpetuity and support effective labor relations. So I think some of the conversations we're having right now, could continue with great progress and, beyond, these negotiations. So we would amend our proposal so that the JLMC addresses issues of mutual concern. We would strike school committee members if the school committee is not willing to be a part of this committee. We understand your position with regard to communication and allowing the administration to do its job. And so we would strike that to respond to your concerns. And that for the 2021-22 school years, topics of conversation shall include but not be limited to COVID safety in buildings, uses for the
Going too
district's.
fast, I'm sorry.
It's up here,
Okay.
It's up,
All right.
sorry. Oh, please slow me down if I do. Communicated, the conversation shall include but not be limited to COVID safety in the buildings, uses for the district's ARPA funds, procedures for communication with educators when new students enter the system, building health issues, and any contractual or working conditions which may arise. And so if the school committee.
Don't you bargain those? Don't you bargain those? I mean, working conditions you deal with at the table, right?
Well, if we want to change the working conditions required in our contract, perhaps, but working conditions include whether or not the air conditioning is working and the heat is working at the right time of year. Working conditions include whether or not our boss is giving us the cold shoulder and we're wondering why we're not getting information from them. Working conditions, is a very broad category, some of which may be contractual and some of which may not be. this is again, the reason why we would bring contractual issues is to have a conversation in the informal stage of a grievance, and hopefully through collaboration and conversation, be able to resolve any issues before they become grievances or become issues that we might take to arbitration. Again, this is not to take away from any of the various curriculum committees and, sort of work-focused and student-focused initiatives that the district comes up with. But this is for the GTA to be able to sit down on equal footing with administration and to say, here are the things that aren't really working for us, and we'd like to talk to you about how we can solve these problems. Because if we don't have that outlet, if we don't have that opportunity, our only option is to decide amongst ourselves, what it is we'd like to do and to organize and, to sort of force the issue. And, in the interest of labor and effective labor management relationship, this could be a great way to continue to build upon the relationship we have, foster increased trust, and to avoid conflict in the future.
Can I just add to what
Meet on a
Anthony,
regular basis.
can I just add to what Anthony said? Because he did a great job with that, but just so you hear it from us as well. Our vision was that this committee would be more ongoing, so we can be more productive and, avoid any disconnect that may be there in any of these categories. So it's not just something we want to talk about at the table. And I think coming to the table the next time may not be as difficult. If we have this committee in place, I think we could take care of a lot of things before we even get to the table.
I want to say something when Naomi talks. The comment was made, the school committee not willing. I don't like that term. I kind of feel offended about that because I wouldn't say that the school committee wouldn't be willing to come to the table, but we have regulations and boundaries ourselves and the way we conduct ourselves with administration and the day-to-day operations of the school. So saying that we wouldn't be willing to be part of this isn't the right word to use. I'm sure you didn't mean to be offended to us, but I took that offensively because I would always be
didn't mean
willing to help.
No,
But
I only meant it in the sense that it was, it was rejected at first.
yeah, I mean,
Not
we're
in that.
bounded by open meeting laws and things like that in our communications. We can only get involved in the day-to-day operations so much. We hold the superintendent accountable. That's our role, not this.
No,
My
understood.
concern with this, and I just want to be clear too, is that this is not going to be ongoing negotiations continuous. I mean, there comes a time when we stop negotiating. I completely respect and understand some of the issues that have been brought up and some of the reasons to meet, but know that going forward in this conversation, I would have to feel comfortable knowing that negotiations have stopped. The contract is agreed upon and that issues that arise can be discussed, but it's not an ability to continue to negotiate on a day-to-day basis. That to me makes absolutely no sense in my contract law world. And that's not something that I
No,
can
not
wrap my brain around, but I understand the importance of building trust and talking through issues very much. I mean, that's understandable, but we have to come together on this, and I'm sure we can at some point. We'll discuss it in our caucus. But no, those are two very important responses for me to that response from you, and I appreciate you listening.
Well, and Melissa, know that our goal, I would hope in both sides, is that we go for a 3-year contract. We haven't had one in a long time.
Right.
A lot happened within those 3 years. So yeah, it would be to just, again, let's connect and not have a disconnect. I think would be
Right.
Okay, just a quick question. I thought that you had regular meetings with the superintendent, the GTA leadership. Is that not happening?
Last year we did, I reached out to get dates from Rachel and Eric and Cynthia, and so they haven't scheduled any dates yet.
Was it COVID, because of COVID last year?
We had, regular every monthly meetings.
Just think that
We're,
Oh,
we
This
have
year we
been
haven't,
having,
this year we haven't.
we have been having meetings.
That's true, we've had a lot of meetings, not a regular
We
monthly
have-
meeting, so.
We'd like to expand that to include more people, and also when we want to call in the professionals on certain topics, we just want to expand that to more parties. Make it more of a
And also,
formalized meeting.
this
Yeah,
would
absolutely.
it would formalize a process so that a future superintendent who may not be as amenable to those kinds of conversations wouldn't be able to refuse them. And so
are you
it's not
saying
that
this
we're
would
worried.
replace Is this replacing the monthly meetings? Is this the monthly meeting? What is your intention through this?
Yeah, it would be the monthly meeting for sure, and just expanding the stakeholders in it.
And when do these meetings take place?
I mean, that is something that we could set up and establish. I think at one point last year, Ben, didn't we try to like pick a particular, I don't know, was it like the third Thursday or something? Like we sort of had a little bit of a schedule at some point last year.
Is
Yeah,
it during school hours or after? I'm just trying to
No,
figure out
after.
how this works with
After, it's
substitutes.
it's
Okay,
after.
after
Has to be
school, thank
after.
you.
And so this is, like we said, this is a pretty important one to us. And if the school committee is amenable to creating a joint labor management committee with us, we actually would be willing to consider withdrawing some of those proposals that might be addressed by that. So that includes proposal number 1, which we do have a modified version, as a contingency. It is also, it would include proposal number 3 here on the screen, which again, we do have a modified version. We appreciate the information you provided about the extensive work that's done to integrate new students. We believe it's still critical to inform classroom teacher as far in advance as possible. In the best case scenario, they'd be informed with significant advance notice and given time to review the student's history. But in a worst case scenario, a teacher would be given a primer on the below information just prior to the student joining class. We understand a worst case scenario is likely due to a student situation, not any negligence on any part of the administration or any other staff. And so our modified proposal here would be that the administration would communicate the following information or the status of the attempts to determine it, and that would be whether the student's file has been reviewed, any communication with previous schools, and relevant information on their education or history. If this is something the district can, is really resistant to adding into the CBA, then we'd be willing to, in exchange for agreeing to a joint labor management committee, withdraw this proposal.
Don't people get this information now? We don't, the administration doesn't hide it. They give the teachers all the information that they have. So why do we need this in the contract? Isn't this just an administrative issue?
Naomi, I think the administrators as well have trouble with this. I mean, tomorrow you're getting a new student, they're coming the next day. And they may come and I don't have any information on them. And I think the principals too are frustrated. They don't have, a great way to get the information in a timely manner. So it's not just teachers. I think administrators, Talina could probably speak to this too. I think everybody would like a way that we could get all the information we need before that student is in front of us and know what they need from us.
So by putting this in a contract, how does that help administration get the information faster?
Because just be clear, it's not like district office has this information we're keeping for anybody. The challenge is actually getting it from other districts and families. That's the most difficult part here. We don't have control over that. So
No, that's what
it's
I
not
meant.
like-
I think principals also have the challenge as we do.
Right, and so does our, when we register students and our, whether it's, student services or whether it's registration or, the issue isn't, we have the information and we're not giving it out. It's that we don't have the information, or we're getting it the moment that the kid shows up, that sort of stuff. So
Right.
anyway, that's,
So I'm wondering how that works. If it goes into the contract and we don't have the information, who's being held accountable and what do we do if a grievance is filed?
So that's where our modification comes in, or the status of attempts to determine it. So the principal can introduce the student and hand the teacher a piece of paper, and that has 3 check boxes. Has the file been received and reviewed? Nope, sorry, the teacher has that in front of them. They know that right away.
But it
Have
sounds
we heard
like
any?
you're suggesting that we withheld something for you, that we have to give you a checklist. I'm curious why an administrator has to give you a checklist to say that we didn't do or we did what we do anyway.
No, I think we're just looking for a way for us to solve this together so it is more productive for the teacher and the students. We're not putting blame on anybody or saying you're holding any information from us. But
This was just our best effort at trying to come up with a system that at least could provide some kind of communication that would be a record of what we do or don't know and updates as it becomes available. Again, we're willing this is another great conversation where, as you're hearing from the team, where we want to work with the district to solve what issues there are, whether perceived or real, about communicating this information when new students arrive. And if we can agree to a joint labor management committee, that would be an excellent place where we could address those issues and work together on streamlining or improving the system.
Well, the
I
superintendent, right
make a
now, I
comment?
don't want to speak for him, but he could send something out to the principals to say, make sure that you keep your staff informed when you get new students, provide the information that you have. I mean, that, you don't need a contract, that can, superintendent, maybe the principals are busy and they've overlooked it, we don't think they are, but of course we can remind them of that, correct, Ben?
Yeah.
If I could interrupt, so this is a big enough issue that we've generated a proposal for it. You rejected our proposal, so we've modified the proposal. Again, this is a big enough issue for the teachers that in order to create a safe and healthy and learning environment for administrators, teachers, and the students themselves, we're trying to generate a solution and make it amenable for administration as well. And I also think, did my friend Carrie have something that she wanted to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to give an example. And Naomi, yes, if you could maybe bring awareness or a reminder to the principals. I got a student, and I found out the week before through another teacher in Marshall's, to be honest with you. I never heard from my own principal at the time. And after lunch, I came and there was an extra chair with a student that moved from an internal school in Gloucester into the school that I work in. So just maybe a reminder how important that is to keep the teachers in the loop. That's all. I think we all can agree that teachers should be kept in the loop. That's not by any means an issue, I think, with any of us. It's just the assumption that we may have information that we're not sharing is what I'm trying to overcome, because I know that's not the case. So again, this is a conversation, I get it, and we'll talk about it further. Yeah, but it has happened though, because like I said, from a school in Gloucester to me, a fellow teacher told me it was coming. I never heard it from my administrator, and those types of things are happening. And like I said, I heard in Marshall's, just when I happen to be walking by a teacher. So we want to avoid those type of situations. I get it. Thank you.
Okay.
Number 4, we're holding on our release time for the GTA president. The discussion of this article focused on how feasible this proposal was. And so we have, a number of ways to suggest that we could provide this important benefit without negatively impacting student learning, such as hiring an additional half-time, full-time equivalent educator to cover the president's release time, hiring an additional 1.0 educator who would cover the president's release time for half the day and have an additional responsibility which addresses the needs of the Gloucester Public Schools. You can modify the schedule of the union president to chunk their teaching periods and allow their union time, such as having all teaching time before lunch with release time afterwards. Modify the schedule as above, and with mutual agreement of GATE, provide dedicated paraprofessional support for release time. And with member support and amendment of our bylaws, if we, the part of this benefit may be funded through a change to GTA dues. So those are things that we'd like to continue discussing, so that, the many issues that arise during the school day can be addressed when admin is working, and limit going into both administrative personal time as well as the GTA president's personal time. So we resubmit with those suggestions, and would love to work with you on arranging for the practice that had existed previous, where the president had half-day release time to be able to represent their educators and meet and work with administration to improve labor management relationships. Number 5, we've modified our mentorship program language. We just sort of kind of expanded it and broken it out a little bit. We hope that a little bit more structure to this language might make it more amenable to the school committee. It is obviously required by mass law to have a mentorship program. And we would reference that and its purpose. And to that end of helping first-year teachers receive guidance, information, support, and training, mentor program leaders in conjunction with administrators shall select mentors for new teachers primarily based on grade and subject affinity. That, most important to us, enable to ensure that everybody who is qualified and wants to be a mentor has an opportunity to apply for open positions. We again are proposing that those mentor openings be posted in the district according to posting for other vacancies required in the CBA. And that the appointment of the mentors is made by the superintendent or their designee in collaboration with the mentor program leaders. That mentors should have experience in the Gloucester School District as a unit member with professional teaching status. That each mentor should receive training prior to beginning their work with a mentee. No mentor shall undertake mentoring duties until having completed the training. In order to recruit new mentors and ensure a constant pool of mentor candidates each year, the district shall offer training every other year beginning in 2022. We understand that there currently is more, there are currently more mentors than needed, but that may not always be the case. And again, not taking away any administrative rights to hire, appoint the people that they think are the best fit. We still believe that the training should be offered at least every other year so that the pool of candidates is never diminished and never deplenished. Or depleted is the word, sorry. So that we would say that begins in 2022. A reasonable effort will be made to ensure mentorships are equally distributed whenever possible to allow qualified mentors a fair opportunity to work with a mentee. Again, our interest is in that everybody who wants to be has the opportunity to get the training and apply for the positions. And also by posting the positions, you avoid the problem of somebody getting picked every year because they were always picked every year. It's sometimes difficult for people who mentor others, especially to ask for relief and say, I don't want to be a mentor anymore. And so by posting the position, it's a much easier way for a member to say, if I don't want to be a mentor again next year, I simply won't apply for the job. Versus being under the pressure from an administrator who may come up to you and say, you're going to be my mentor again next year, right? I got a new teacher, you're a mentor. And again, it allows more agency and more opportunity for more members to be part of the program.
Don't the principals now decide who mentors are going to be in their schools? Are you trying to remove them from that process?
No, not at all.
I could talk about this, Anthony, since I'm the mentor leader for the district.
Go ahead. Yep.
No, it actually would be a collaboration with the mentor leader. So in my case, I would talk with James, which we do. I suggest people, he suggests people, and we talk about it, but ultimately it is James' decision. But by having this communication between the mentor leader, for example, I know at least in one of the schools, when a principal was asked why a certain person continues to get picked, the principal said that that it had been an oversight, that they hadn't noticed that this had happened a couple of times. If that principal had spoken with the mentor leader, that mentor leader could have said, hey, here's someone I can recommend for you. Here's someone that I noticed that, a few people have been passed over a couple of years and they are already eligible. We are running a mentoring course right now, and we'll have a pool of people from the various schools, because I know that there are some schools where there may not be that many. And as Anthony pointed out, the one person in a school who may be eligible may not want to do it, but if we can get some more people, we can say to the principal, hey, we've got one or two other people that could do it. One of the things that we notice is we don't always have people available in the grade level or the subject area. But a lot of times it isn't always about that, that we can use people, for example, Rachel, as a life sciences teacher, mentored someone with the tech engineering background. Both science teachers, but not entirely the exact same thing. But a lot of the mentoring program is about mentoring individuals, not mentoring science teachers or math teachers or whatever. So we can work that out. And if they go through the program that we're using, we're kind of building this program specific to the Gloucester district, not necessarily outside. And so we, you know, I know the people that are taking my class right now. I know those people. I know they're going to be good people or not. And then I can make that recommendation to the principal who may not know. Sometimes the principals may not even know that these people have taken these courses and are eligible for it. But because they were spoken to about it, and because that person also applied, because there was a application process, they will now know who they have and who might be the right person for it.
Thank you.
Number 6, we don't have a modification, but again, these are issues that, you know, could be discussed. We're actually holding these at this time with no change. Number 7, with conference participation, we've amended to reflect some of what the school committee had said to us in your last response, to be able to reflect the current practice. So we would accept that it'd be 3 1/2 days and counter with the addition of these words as needed, again, to match the current practice. Our concern is that without the words as needed, the expectation might be that a teacher actually provide a conference to every student, even those that aren't necessary, either because the parent doesn't need one or the student is doing well. And the current practice is that teachers do make themselves available and they reach out to those students who are in particular need of you know, a conversation with the parents. And again, with the current workload, it wouldn't be possible or feasible in the 1/2 day to be able to schedule every single parent and student. So we think as needed is a reasonable counter to reflect the current practice and ensure that the expectation is reasonable.
Can I ask a question? Is there ever a time where a parent requests a conference and the answer is no from the teacher?
I
No.
won't speak for the team, but I'd probably guess no.
Okay, thank you.
As I think I can shed a little light on the situation. So what we do at the middle school, and again, I can't speak for the other schools, is we offer a time, and if a parent can't make it, then we have student review time. We'll offer that time during the day. But every single accommodation we can give to a parent to, if they request a conference, we will give to them, no doubt.
Thank you, that means a lot.
Right, and we understand that's one of those traditional duties. So some parents can't make it. We work with them as we would even during the year when a parent conference wasn't imminent. Number 8, no change here. This is another issue that we believe could be spun out to a joint labor management committee. So if the district would agree to union number 2 and create a joint labor management committee, along with number 1 and 3, we would withdraw number 8 if the district agreed to number 2. The same goes for number 9 with parent and community engagement. Again, these are issues in terms of how we get information about our schools to the community that we feel like we could discuss at a joint labor management committee. And so with number 9, we would withdraw it if the district agreed to our number 2 joint labor management committee.
Sounds like you want a joint management.
We felt like we leaned pretty heavy on that at the last meeting, at the last session.
I wasn't
And,
here, so I guess I needed this.
Number 10, again, this is another issue with, the district did ask us for some data where we don't have that quite yet. But the equity for elementary specialist schedules is another issue that could perhaps be brought to a joint labor management committee. So that would round out the list of those proposals we would be willing to withdraw in exchange for number 2. So that list is number 1, 3, 8, 9, and 10 from the union. With number 11, we've withdrawn the addition of the per diem rate for daily substitutes and returned the first sentence to start with retired teachers. And we would propose just including the word as substitutes, and the district has accepted the 150 new rate. And so we've just included that here. 11.2, in terms of how to recruit and make sure we have and continually train our substitutes. That is another issue. Actually, sorry, that should go added to 11.2. We could add to the items we'd be willing to withdraw in exchange for a joint labor management committee. Number 12, we're going to hold on this. We do think it's very important that every student in every school have access to a library or an equivalent learning commons, such as a media center, and that every school should have at least one dedicated full-time licensed library teacher or an FTE. At the very least, this is something that it's quite frankly, it's an equity issue, not just for students within Gloucester, but for all students in the Commonwealth and the country, that they have access to a certified teacher who, can help them with research and provide them with instruction even in some of the library skills and media center skills. There are people out there with these certifications, and we think our students deserve in every school at every level to have them. And in fact, a lot of grants that are out there, for schools to apply for, often, will be geared towards this. And, we'd be interested in helping and working with the district to find any of those grants that could help with this issue. But we do think it's important, and it's one that the community and our students deserve in every school. So we're going to hold on that. And then comes our modified compensation proposal. So we're holding on 13.1 to create a new masters plus 15 and 45 column. And we will amend our.
Anthony, can you just slow down just a little bit while you go through this?
Yep.
Thanks. Because I don't have the document.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
We don't have the document, which is making this difficult. I'm taking notes, I don't even know to what.
Well,
When we caucus, we'll send all.
we'll
the
send
documents.
them
Don't
over.
worry with us.
I thought we discussed this before. So our new proposal, 13.1 remains the same, adding the new lanes at masters plus 15 and masters plus 45. We, in 13.2, will amend our proposal so that we add a new top step 14 in FY22. That would be only 2% above the previous step, dropping the lowest step, 3% COLA on all cells, on all other cells. And then in FY23, increase step 14 to 3% above the previous, 3% COLA on all cells. And then FY24, increase step 14 to 4% above the previous with a 3% COLA. So the new step at 4% above would be increased gradually over 3 years instead of going to 4% on the new step all at once.
So,
Wait,
hold on, Anthony, I just want to be clear. So what you're saying is the top step in the first year would get a
2%.
2 plus 3.
It
2
would be
plus 3,
2%.
so 5%, and the next year it would get,
So the new top,
6%. The next year you get 7%.
yes, we originally proposed adding a new top step that is 4% above the current top step. So our modified proposal is that in the first year, the new step would be 2% above the current top step. After the COLA that goes into place for the next year, that top step would then increase by 1% more to above the previous. And then in the third year, it would increase by another 1%. So that it becomes 4% above the step 13.
And that's for all your maximum steps.
Say again?
Is that for all your maximum steps?
Our maximum step would become step 14 in year one in FY '22. And that top step would be 2% above the current top step after a 3% COLA. Then in FY '23, all the steps would get a 3% COLA, but we would make an adjustment to step 14 so that it reached 3% above step 13. And the final year, another 3% COLA on all steps, but an adjustment to step 14 so that it is 4% above the previous step, which would be in line with the difference, the average difference between all of the steps in the scale.
So the first year, this top step would get 2% plus 3%, right? 5% increase?
Well, a person who is currently on step 13 would see a 3% increase and then move to the new step 14, which is 2% higher than that.
Right, so that's everyone on the top step, correct? Step, when you say step 13?
Correct.
Which is close to half
So,
of your
so,
bargaining
so,
unit.
right, so half the bargaining unit would get 2% step plus 3% COLA the first year. The next year they'd get.
They'd stay on step 14, so they get
Right.
their 3% COLA and then it would go there, they would get the amount added so that they matched 3% above the previous step. I don't know if that's exactly one more percent. It might be a little less actually. And then in the third year, they would stay on step 14, get the 3% COLA, but the value of that step would also increase another 1% to reflect a 4% gain from step 13 to 14.
So over the course of 3 years, we go from what percentage to what percentage? How much of a percentage increase is that over 3 years? 14%?
For somebody who's on the top step, that
Yeah.
would be, yeah, that'd be approximately that. That sounds right.
So 13% over 3 years for 50% of our population.
Well, our previous proposal was 3% COLA and all 4% in 1 year. So that by that math,
Understand that.
that'd be 21%. So we've,
So 14 is
again,
supposed to
it's the
sound
school,
better?
the school committee. The school committee said they want veteran teachers to be compensated in the style that they're accustomed to. And our veteran teachers, I mean, you did propose adding an additional step at 0.5%. And we're countering from 4% to a gradual increase to 4%. So we're trying to come in your direction, but it's got to be a two-way street.
14% over 3 years is a very large amount.
Well, Social Security is getting a cost of living adjustment of over 5% each year.
Well, we have a budget. We
So
don't
does the
have
Social
to-
Security Administration. I mean,
That's not
You'd
clear,
argue-
not clear. Not clear about that one.
The federal government isn't giving us money.
Our proposal continues to add an additional step. But I'm just trying to understand the difference. But you're just continually increasing that one step 14, correct?
Correct. We'd rather have
So
one
what
new step
happens-
that gets to 4% than 3 steps at 0.5% each.
Yeah, but I'm just saying what happens is somebody goes from step 13 to step 14, and it's gonna be a 20% increase.
Right, but step increases, you should already be budgeting. for
No, I'm
people
just
who-
saying.
20%.
I'm just saying there's gonna be this huge
You just said,
jump.
wait.
There's gonna be this huge.
No, it's not.
jump at
It's
that
not going to
point.
be 20%. It's not going to be 20%.
Our initial proposal, by the math
Well,
you
we
said, is
know
3
it,
and
your initial
4%.
proposal.
In the third year of what you're proposing, the people on the top step are just continually getting more, but there are people coming up, correct? There are
Yes.
people on 11 and 12 and 13. So on the third, on the third year of this contract, the increase from step 13 to 14 will be very large.
You get plenty of time. I mean, that's why it's backloaded. We start small.
Time
That
for
way you
what?
have 2 years to
Jonathan.
be able to budget for it.
all steps are approximately 4%. So a teacher could go from their third year to their fifth year, and they're going up 2 steps. It's still the same increase. We're
Yeah, those
only
are very
making the step, excuse me, we're only making the step that's comparative to all the other steps on the table. Now, we originally wanted to do that in year 1, and that's what a step is. It's approximately 4%. But instead, because you countered with a 0.5%, we reduced and we're now going in a gradual increase, starting at 2 and then 3 and then 4. We're not adding the 2 and then +3 and then +4, just to clarify. But that happens at every step. And again, the step and track increases are for teachers who are earning those step and tracks through courses and coursework that they pay for. And also, this is to make sure that teachers are realizing the compensation for their profession, for a profession that starts in the low 40s. Now, these are people who have to have their master's.
Wait, our steps do not start in the lower 40s. That's
New teachers
incorrect.
don't hire that level.
We don't hire at that rate.
Schedule doesn't even have
With
it.
our proposal, a new teacher starts at
Goes up to 60
60.
60,000 is the starting for our proposal
for a new teacher.
for a new teacher.
I don't know, we got
I
40,000.
mean, we're a community that our taxes go up 2.5% each year.
On the fiscal
That's what
year
we have to work with, and
2021,
you're asking for 14%. I just want to be clear when I walk away, because we know there's gonna be conversation about this. You're
Our-
asking for
our
14%
fiscal
over
year-
3 years.
Your bottom
Our
line
fiscal
isn't gonna go up by
2021.
14%.
You're interrupting Melissa. Can Melissa finish, please?
14% over 3 years, when the taxes in the city can only go up 2.5 to negotiate and settle with every group. Otherwise, there has to be some sort of override.
our tracks and steps have been on in the
Current
contract
steps
forever,
and
and they're
tracks
in
have been
every,
committed
now, we
to.
let you finish. Can I
No,
finish
you
now?
haven't. You haven't let me finish. You
Can
love
I
to do
fin-
this, Cynthia. No, I'm gonna finish. Those steps and tracks, and using your words, those are committed to. We have a city government that knows our step and track schedule, and they're committed to paying that when we get our budget funded every year. Now you're asking for an additional step plus a 3% COLA, which gives you 14% over 3 years. What type of commitment do you think we have from the city to fund our contracts in that capacity? Or better yet, who are we taking money from in our budget that we have now to fund that? And even better yet, if we settle with you for that percentage, every group that is just as important as the teachers for making last year possible is gonna be asking for the same. So tell me how do we potentially fund a 14% increase over 3 years?
Well, we can
I
start by
can
acknowledging
clarify.
that your budget isn't going to, your line item for salaries is not going to increase by 14% over 3 years because the top step because we add a new top step in addition to a COLA. I mean, that's just not true. I
Well, it's
mean,
at least 9 because you have 3% each year for everybody. So
Plus 50% of the people are on that step.
Well, that's-
plus we're hiring librarians and other people too that you've been suggesting.
I mean, do our students not, I mean, are we gonna ask our students and families to forego librarians just for raises? Or should we have both librarians and a salary that will attract and retain the best that are available?
So I'm
to
gonna
fill
ask
the
you, are
position?
you gonna go to our community when we're building a new school, potentially another new school in a couple of years, with a water treatment plan coming, which all is gonna impact the taxes to our tax base immensely over the community in the next couple of years? Are you gonna go to the community and say, the school will not fund a librarian and will not give us the 9 to 14% increases? Are you gonna give them that message, or?
I
are
mean,
we
I'd be
going?
happy to. If you need the union support in
You don't
organizing.
know the
it-
Gloucester community.
If you
you're
need our
happy to
support in
do that.
organizing, I'm answering your question, but if you need our support in organizing for an override vote or getting the word out to
I'm
where,
not
that's what
asking for an
unions.
override. I don't
If
need the
that's-
support. That's up to you.
Melissa.
So
can we-
we're telling you we're willing to do the work. If you're telling us in order to give us the raise that our teachers deserve,
No,
we
we're
need to
not-
go out and
we're not
justify it to the
saying that, and we're
community.
not saying
then-
you don't deserve
I mean, you
it.
just asked if that's what we were willing to do, and the answer
We're
is
s-
yes. We are
we're
willing to go to
saying-
the community and say that teachers deserve more than a 1% raise.
No, go
after-
to the community and tell them you're saying, asking for a 14% raise.
We are.
1%
We
is
are. We're telling them
misleading.
right now. We're asking for a
1%
3% cost
is
of living, which
misleading.
doesn't even match
Now-
inflation, which is 3.1 or 3.3 for your region, 5.5% nationally, with Social Security making an adjustment of cost of living.
We're not
That is
Social
5
Security.
times more than
We're
what you're
school system.
offering.
Okay, Anthony, tell us systems that are settling for 14% over 3 years.
Before we do that, I'm going to totally interrupt because the tone is starting to get very cantankerous and Cynthia has not had an opportunity to rebut Melissa. So let's make sure that we're not being condescending and we're watching our tone. And let's make sure that we're not going to be pitting the unions in the district against each other. And let's certainly make sure that we're not going to balance the budget of the city of Gloucester on the backs of the teachers. Now, Cynthia wants to speak.
And after Cynthia, I'd like to respond to that, Rachel. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. I agree wholeheartedly. I'm going to reiterate what Matt said many meetings ago, and it's priorities. You have on the table on your budget additional positions that you want to put in as well. That's a priority that you have made. By the way, our new teachers started track 1 at 49.1, and excuse me, it's not low 40s, but it's still 40s. So we need to remove the track and step increases from our COLA. It's not a COLA. Those are what we earn through our professionalism. It takes 10 years for a teacher to realize their potential in this industry with a 3-year probationary period, I might say. So it's different than others, okay? And every district has step and track. And step and tracks are not compared when we're talking about COLA increases. We're talking about adding 1 step, which is comparative to all the other steps. And not a 0.5%, but a 4. And we're willing to gradually go up to it. That's what we're willing to do. For the record. So
But
again.
you're very clearly
priority.
asking on those steps that people get a 7% raise. I mean, you said it yourself in here, so you're combining the step and the track, the step salary increase, the annual step salary increase, and the COLA as well. So I kind of feel like you're asking for it both ways.
We're
here.
just trying to
You
respond to
don't-
your
Sorry,
concerns.
Anthony, sorry, Anthony. You don't want us to talk about it, but you're welcome, you're welcome to. I don't understand that.
Could I answer
think
I
you're
don't
that?
confused, 'cause
understand
we're
what you're
not-
saying, Ben. We're separating our step and track from our COLA, which it should be. We have never in the history of our negotiation discussed step and track, because those are what teachers earn for their professionalism, okay? The COLA increase is what we talk about. You have come up and we've said that some teachers are getting 20% increases over the next 3 years. That is just false. It's false because they start in the 40s. A profession that doesn't realize their potential for over 10 years due to courses and coursework they have to take that they pay for. I mean, it's just different than most other industries. So we cannot put step and track into a salary increase that is COLA. Okay, you wanted to add a step, we wanted to add a step. That is a professional increase that we are realizing for our professionalism. It's not a COLA increase.
The only time the step increase is relevant is in the first year under our original proposal with 1 step at 4%. If you include the step raises for the whole contract, that's a 7.26% increase. And the only reason I would even do that is we haven't separated out exactly just the new step. But it's a 7.26% in the first year if we went all the way to a new 4% top step. In the second year, that would drop with just 1 step going all the way to 4% in the first year. In the second year, you'd only see an increase of 4.93% on the base for the second year. And in the third year, again, under our original proposal, it was 4.88% on the base, even if you include the steps for the entire scale. So our original proposal would have added up to a little bit more than 15 or 16% on the base if you include all of the step raises, which after the first year really, isn't applicable. After that, it's a straight COLA of 3%. We've modified our proposal so that this number actually comes down and that we don't get to that top step at 4% above above the previous step until the third year. The reason why we only have one step being dropped in our proposal is we thought that might make it more amenable to the school committee. We drop one step, it raises the lowest starting salary. We trade one step for one step, and the new step that gets added to the top gradually increases over time. We're more than willing to drop 3 steps at the bottom in exchange for the one, if that's what you want to counter with. And if you have a different idea, if you have a counter for a different way to phase in an equitable new step, that's not just a 0.5%, that's not 3 new 0.5% steps over 3 years, that doesn't do in 3 years what happens at every other step on this scale in 1. We're happy to again continue to bargain and see what your counter is. But under our original proposal, the new dollars in year 1 with the one new step was just over $1 million. The step, all the rest of the steps alone were $718,000. So that puts a significant difference in the first step. That's why we counter here today by saying let's ease that in so that the district has more time to plan for it and to adjust for it. In the first year, it's 2%. It's a new step that's half the distance. It addresses what the school committee says is a concern of theirs, which is to keep veteran teachers being paid in the style they're accustomed to. An extra 0.5% isn't that style, doesn't really do a whole heck of a lot. This we think is a fair and reasonable counter. We're still bargaining. There's still room in between us. But
I don't know how you can say 14% is a fair and reasonable counter.
Again, it's not. It was at most 16% over 3 years. It is now less than that.
Let me say this.
And
Let me
when
bring this in
inflation
a
is at
little bit.
5% a year, I think that's perfectly reasonable because our members' expenses are going up. Our community knows that, and when we talk to the community, they agree with us that teachers deserve more than a 1% COLA.
And
Let me,
before you
wait, no,
respond,
my
Melissa, wait
turn,
1 second.
my turn,
Melissa, can
my
you hang on
turn.
1 second?
It's my turn to respond to this a little bit. Rachel, I get it. Just let
Yeah,
me
but
say this. Let me say this.
I have one
I've
quick
been
thing.
waiting. Let me say this. So I'm listening to Anthony saying it's only 1 point something million. Do you know last year our whole budget total to run the school district after begging the city council and the mayor for more money was 1.2 million. We live in a community where 1 in every 6 families is at the open door. So let me just put that as far as money into perspective coming from our community, as you're saying you'll gratefully go out to the community and rally for this increase that you're asking for. And I'm not saying you're not worth it because you are worth billions to me. But the reality is we live in Gloucester. This is how our community operates. This is the community here that funds us. This is the taxpayers that will pay for this. And I can tell you right now, I am struggling with this conversation. And I want to say this. I was going to say it to Rachel the other day. I'm going to say it now. And I hope my members don't get upset. So for the past 3 weeks, our school committee has been inundated by emails from either teachers, staff, or now neighbors, because you knocked on their doors on Sunday, telling us how shameful the school committee is because of a 1% COLA. Me, who loves the conversation, has been happy to engage in conversations when people call me now. Now I can't get enough emails because I cannot wait to explain. I truly believe you are misleading this community by saying only 1%, when we all know, and when I show them the graphs that we have, this is your salary this year, this is your salary next year, it goes up by more than 1%. So I understand that you don't want to talk about step and track. I want to step and track. I know that process, I live it. I'm topped out, I don't get it anymore. I would benefit from more steps, but guess what? State hasn't given me a step in 28 years on the top. We get COLA increases. But now my conversation with the public is, it's not 1%. First of all, our proposal was more than 1% because we created a step So the impact to our budget was not just 1%. So 1% does not mean 1% in the way that you're relating it to this community. And when we explain to families who contact us saying, shame on you, when we show them what the top salary is, when we show them where you compare to dark communities, when they hear the amount of salary that you make this year compared to next year, just with our first proposal, they're like, wow, are you kidding me? So we're having a big disconnect here. I'm looking at all of you who are so happy to run out to this community and think you're gonna get more money from taxpayers when I know that is not happening. We cannot get the money out of city council. They fund police settled for 2% this year. Fire, I believe, similar. How do we justify saying teachers are gonna get 10%, 7%, 8% in a community that is growing with poverty? As we struggle to build a new school to help us educate the kids so that our teachers have safe and learning environments. There is such a huge disconnect here, and your group is doing nothing but shaming us and trying to get the community to shame us.
We've only asked them to
I'm
advocate
upset,
for the
and I'm
students in
getting
this
very upset
community
over
as
So I
as
hope
we.
you're not walking away thinking that you have the support in the way you do, and that we're gonna change our minds and say, hey, yeah, let's just come up with another $3 million so that we can equally distribute the money to every important employee of this district. It's not gonna happen.
Well, we
need
can't
bring
speak to
this
the-
conversation in and have a real discussion about what Gloucester can afford. Not what you're worth. We all know you're worth more, but that is not gonna come in the form of money in
So
this
I'm
conversation.
hearing two different things, because you're saying we all know you're worth more, but you're
You
also
are-
saying that you're
worth
sharing,
billions.
that
I
you're
will never
speaking
pay
with,
you
but you're
billions.
speaking with parents who see how much we make and they're saying, oh, that's enough. They don't deserve it. So I don't know which it is we're supposed to believe. And I don't know
We don't
now.
use that word. We don't use the word deserve. That's you trying to invoke anger towards us.
Your
We
word,
would
I'm,
never use the word deserve. It's affordability and
what did
sustainability.
you just say though?
That's what we're
You just said
trying
we're
to-
worth billions. Right?
Yeah,
We're not
you know
asking
who-
for billions. We're asking for a cost of living adjustment. And, you know, we know who we spoke to, you know who you've spoken to. And when we speak to members of the community, they roll their eyes at 1% and they say how upsetting that is, and that our teachers and students deserve more, and we believe them. And the community is
1% our
open to.
first proposal, first proposal. We haven't got the conversation to 2 yet, because you've done nothing but shame us and give the community a.
You feel shame, that's
that
on
we're
you.
not
We have
coming
never,
back to
we
the
have never
table.
said
Shame
told
on you
anybody
for
to
doing
shame
that.
you. We have
Shame on
never
you for
said
doing
shame
that.
on you. We have said how we feel. Our members have felt insulted. If that embarrasses you that they feel insulted,
It
that's
doesn't
on you.
embarrass me. I'm
If members
happy to
of the
explain the
community
salary
come to
scale.
you and advocate for us, and then you feel a sense of shame, that's
I
on
don't
you.
feel
And I
shame.
can't control your
You know what?
emotions.
We need to caucus.
We are engaging in the community.
We're
We are
caucusing.
reaching out to families and parents.
And
And when
again,
we speak to them, they agree with us that this is what our educators deserve. You're
They
building a
agree
brand
that
new
you should
school.
get
Who is going to
14%
staff
over
those
3
brand new
years.
buildings?
14%
Who's going to
over
staff
3
those
years,
brand
you're
new
not gonna
buildings?
find anybody to agree to
Is
that.
that what you're saying?
Maybe the people on the back shore, that's about it. Not at Open Door. Not gonna happen. With all due respect, I mean that, with all due
and this is,
respect, 14%
it's-
is not reasonable.
We're not asking for
Again-
14%.
Well,
Our-
again,
our
this is,
proposal
this
doesn't
is-
even-
these are based on your priorities too, what you're offering. You've got
So now we know
additional,
what priorities
you've got
are.
additional positions you're doing. You're building a $74 million school. You're talking about a community in poverty. And how many, what's the tax rate going to go up when you build a $74
We don't need
million
a
school on the
school? Are
most
you saying
expensive
that?
site
So
in
Rachel,
Nashville?
Cynthia, are
Almost
you kidding me right
50% of
now?
the people did not agree, and you're not letting me talk now, Alyssa. Almost 50% of the people did not want to put the school there. I mean, so these are priorities that you
Sorry, the
made.
vote was
And
yes,
yet,
not
when it
no.
comes to giving teachers 2% more a year, you're crying poverty.
we need
It
to
doesn't make
caucus.
any sense.
I can't.
Before we caucus, I cannot be
Yeah.
more disappointed
Yeah.
right now in the way that we've been behaving.
I
The
know.
tone has
I
been
agree.
borderline rude, borderline condescending. And Melissa, we definitely talked about that
I know.
privately. Number one. Number two, you continue to yell and talk over people and don't give them the time back. And then you shame us. This is not the way
Can I give
that
you
we,
an email?
I'm still talking.
How
This
many
is
emails
not the
do I have
way.
to say, shame on you from your supporters? Shame
No,
on you,
this
school
is
We
not-
committee.
didn't tell them
This
to
is
say
not
that.
drafted
We
by
never told
you.
them to say shame on you. If they
You
did that, they
drafted
added that on their
letter,
own.
and you
And
had a
that's
sent
them.
to us that says shame on the school committee. That came from the
Yeah.
MTA or GTA. It came from you, 100 emails saying the same exact thing. And even some people were silly enough to leave, please send this to your school committee up the top of it. You drafted a letter that said shame on the school committee. That's why I am upset right now. I apologize. I know I'm yelling. I know I'm talking over. I truly apologize, but I have never experienced anything like this in negotiations. I have never felt like this before, how our teachers have absolutely no respect for us right now. We are doing the best we can, working within a budget. We can't add money to the budget. It is given to us. You have no respect for that process, coming back at us with this type of request for an increase.
Again,
I'm sorry, that's how I
priorities.
truly feel. I could leave here and cry right now. That's how disappointed I am.
Again,
Oh.
bargaining in good faith, this is not how we behave. And you know what? You can always counter our proposals. But again, Melissa, this behavior is very unbecoming, and I could not be more disappointed. Now is a great time for a caucus.
Oh, I called one 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
I am right.
Shut it down.
Yes.
I texted Melissa that we've returned. Oh, there they are.
Okay.
So we can think.
So for your proposals, if you could send them to us, that would be very helpful.
They've been sent. Let me know if you've received them. I sent them about 5 minutes ago.
We will have a counter for you at the next session.
Before we go, folks, we do have some things we'd like to share.
So I'm
I can't share my screen for you, Matt, at the moment, if that could be re-enabled.
So while that's happening, as one of the people who helped draft this letter, I think it's kind of important to put it out there what this letter actually said, because at no point in our draft that we collectively came up with did we use the word shame. I'm going to start reading, and Anthony, you can just project it.
I don't think this is helpful. I
We're
don't
done.
think.
We're gonna end the meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great
Oh, no,
night.
it's there.
We
yeah.
don't, so we can't correct the record
Wait.
after
Oh, no.
everything Melissa
Thank
just
you.
said?
Hold on, hold on.
No, this has
I
to
don't
be.
wanna do
a-
this.
this
I'm
is
not doing
this
this.
has-
Rachel, what I'm gonna do is,
Yes,
Rachel, I'm
agreed
gonna
upon.
send you my emails that I got that.
We're not
No.
denying that you may have
No, that's
received
what we
emails
do.
that other.
So we're not gonna
that
have
others-
this back and forth, not doing it. I'm
We
done.
need to
No,
make
wait,
sure.
wait. We
No,
just
no.
want to show the letter. That's all. To show you, this is
Listen,
important for you to
there's three
see.
versions of three different letters.
No,
We have the
no, no.
letters. We can make them public to the families with our explanation, which we
No,
have
this is
now
not
soon.
happening.
We're done
We have to
talking.
agree.
The fact that you're, the
Not
fact that
this
you won't, the fact that you
conversation.
won't let us
We are
correct the
upset,
record.
you're
We're
upset,
not
we're gonna
getting
end the
anywhere.
meeting.
We'll see you at the next
Thank
meeting.
you.
No,
This
no.
isn't fair.
No.
This is a
no,
very-
This
No,
is,
it's not.
All
this is
right.
bargaining in
Rachel,
bad
that's
faith,
right.
and I'm
This is
willing
not
to
Now,
follow
fair.
you.
Cynthia,
on it.
let's listen, if they don't want to engage with us, I mean,
Oh,
the
no,
letter's
that's
out
not
there.
it. Don't put your little
No, we
twist
need to
on
set
it.
the
We
record
engaged.
straight.
You told us
The-
you're ending the meeting.
GPA,
We
the
asked to
GTA's
be able,
letter.
Doing what you've done in the past. Thank you very much. End
we asked to be
meeting.
able to correct the record.
What have we done in the
Because
past?
Melissa stated that we were asking people to tell you that
You
they
end the
were
meeting,
shaming
Ben.
you.
This is just
At no
ridiculous.
point
Good
did we
night.
ever do
Good
that.
night.
Good night.
If
Thank
people took
you.
it upon themselves to